Everyone, this is Jeff Wilkerson, Professor of Physics at Luther College, bringing you the next in our series of what to look for in the night sky, this time for the week of May 16th, 2022. So, what we've been talking a lot lately about objects, things that are associated with the solar system. The planets in the morning sky, still great. Go out and look at them. We tracked the moon last week, headed into the big lunar eclipse. We talked about meteor shower, the Eta Aquariid meteor shower. And so we've been thinking about things that we can associate with the solar system here for a while. And so I thought it's time to do something completely different. And we're going to look at the North Polar region of the sky, in particular the Big Dipper, and a little bit of the Little Dipper up in Ursa Major, Ursa Minor. And I started writing stuff on the board. I do this in advance. If you've been watching these videos, you know I started quite a while ago, a year and a half ago, writing on the board in advance rather than trying to draw images, trying to draw sketches of the asterisms while the video was ongoing, because that usually fell apart quickly. So today I wrote this all on the board before we got started. And by the way, I think, if we get 65 views a week of these things, I'm assuming that's two people watching it 32 and 33 times each. Once me watching it once when I upload it. But in any event, I wrote the stuff on the board, and then I stepped back and I looked at it and I thought, oh my goodness, what a wreck of stuff that I've written on there. And, what I probably should have done is erase the whole thing and start over again and try to be a little bit less crowded. But I looked at it and thought, let's give it a shot. Let's go. So sort of how my mind works is cluttered like this. But it also probably a lot of people, when they look up at the night sky and see a lot of stars, this is what they see, is a big wreck. So let's see if we can start to pull some of this stuff out of here. So we'll start with the Big Dipper. And my apologies to my friends in the Southern Hemisphere. This is not something that's going to be easily observed if you're too far south. This is a great time of year to look at the North Pole region, to look at the Big Dipper in particular, because the Big Dipper in the spring, the Big Dipper in the evening is climbing into the sky. And so if you think about the North Star is there, but if you think about the North Star and you look at it, the stars make circles around the North Star like this. And sometimes they're below. So the Big Dipper's up in our sky here at mid-northern latitudes, here in Decorah. The Big Dipper's up in our sky all the time. We say it's circumpolar. It never gets below the horizon. Here's our horizon. Ooh, that angle right there, between the North Star, Polaris, and the horizon, that angle is our latitude angle. So if we are at 43 degrees north latitude, where I am right now as I'm doing this filming, that 43 degrees is how far Polaris is above the northern horizon. Anything that's within 43 degrees, there's an angle for you, 43 degrees. Anything that's within 43 degrees of the pole will never get below the horizon then. And so the Big Dipper fits that nicely. The Big Dipper stays above the horizon for us the entire time. But at times, it's skimming the horizon and it's hard to see. In the evening in the spring, it's climbing up out of the horizon. And now, by the time it gets dark, it's high up here over Polaris, over the North Star. It looks like the Dipper, the bowl of the Dipper, is upside down and pouring its contents into the bowl of the Little Dipper. So let's sketch this out. There's the Big Dipper. Maybe this will make it easier to see. There's our Big Dipper, right? And hopefully that helped pull that out for you up there, that you can see the Big Dipper. We use the two stars in the end of the bowl of the Big Dipper to point at Polaris. These are called the pointer stars. I find I have to curl just a little bit right to get to Polaris. There's the distance, 1, 2, 3. Go about 3 times the separation of the two stars in the end of the bowl and curl just a little bit right, and there's Polaris, the North Star. Okay, so Polaris is right on our rotational axis. I had a globe. This is again. I thought I had a globe I was going to bring in and show this to you, but it's in the planetarium, and I forgot to go in and get it out of the planetarium. Here we are, right in the middle of this. So we'll use this gamma ray sky globe as a potential. But to say, if you're at a northern latitude like this, if something's on the rotational axis, you can see that thing. You have to point that same direction to look at it, no matter where you are. So no matter where you are, you look up this direction on the axis, the thing that's on the rotational axis doesn't seem to move. If you're looking at something down here, it does move, and it makes these circles around the North Star. Well, that was a terrible visual aid, but there we go. So it makes these circles bigger. Further south you look, the bigger and bigger the circles are that the stars make around Polaris, around the North Star. And if you're in the southern hemisphere, then they would be making these circles around the south celestial pole. So here we go. We point. Merak and Dubhe are the two stars in the end of the bowl of the Big Dipper. And this would come from an Arabic word, according to all of our work. You know this if you've been watching. All of our understanding of the names of stars comes from Allen's star names, their lore and meaning. We show this quite often to you there. And this is from the Greater Bear, Ursa Major. And so that's one of the names that we'll look at here. All of these stars, we've talked about this a lot too. The brighter stars have a lower magnitude number. First magnitude star is a very bright star. A second magnitude star is a pretty darn bright star. Third magnitude, easily visible. Anything below that starts to get to be harder and harder to see depending on your light pollution situation and how much stuff you have in the atmosphere, humidity or whatever. So the stars of the Big Dipper, pretty bright. So we see here as we walk along, a lot of second magnitude and some third magnitude stars in there. And so these two stars, we point this direction, we curl to Polaris. The other stars in the bowl back here, we come back this direction. The Ben star in the handle, Mizar and Alcor. Mizar is a double star. You can see these two stars with a small telescope. Alcor, a lot of people can see that that's a pair of stars with just their naked eye. Certainly a pair of binoculars makes it very easy. But Mizar itself is a double star, and each of those two stars is a binary star system that we see spectroscopically. And then we curl on down here. We curve around to Alkaid. Up that direction in the handle. So that's our stars of the Big Dipper. Some objects in the Big Dipper, if you want to try to find galaxies, this is a great place to find galaxies. Generally speaking, our galaxy is it's a spiral galaxy. It looks like that. And so we're out here in the flattened disk of the galaxy. If we look this direction through the galaxy, we see a lot of interesting stuff. We see a lot of nebulae and star clusters and all kinds of things. But if we look up this direction through the thin part of the galaxy, we can see out into distant space. We can see beyond our Milky Way galaxy and see lots of other galaxies. And this is, in fact, part of that. The Leo-Virgo region we talk about a lot is part of that. But this is part of this looking up away through the thin part of the disk of our galaxy, and we see a lot of galaxies. Now, some of the better galaxies, M81 and M82, are a little bit harder to find, right? You take this line of your pointer stars toward Polaris and move down about the same distance, one set of these pointer stars, and then you've got to just drift off this direction and try to find M81 and M82. But these, if you think about a spiral galaxy like this, if you see it tipped this way, it looks dense and bright. But if you tip it up this way so you're looking through the thin part of the disk, right? So you're looking through the thin part of the disk, just like we can see out. We don't see as much starlight when we look that way, and we talk about those as being big face-on spirals, and they can be a lot of integrated light, a lot of light there, but it's spread out over the sky, and it's really hard to see, and that's M101. M101 is much easier to triangulate to, at least I've found. M81 and M82, if you don't have a go-to telescope, if you don't have a telescope, you can say M81, go find it. But if you don't have that, then this is a little bit trickier to find. You got to step down toward Polaris and then move across just a tiny little bit to your left, to tweak your telescope over that direction and start poking around. But once you've hit them, they're much easier to see. They're big and bright and beautiful. M101 is tipped absolutely face on like this and is a challenge to see. It's big, but all that light, that means all that light is spread out over a big area. So it's got a low contrast. It's not bright against the background. You need a dark sky to see this. But to triangulate to it, you go from Mizar and make a sort of right triangle almost with Al-Qaid up that direction. And you can find M101. So that's our look at the Big Dipper. One more star name we'll take from Alan here. Magrets in Chinese would be Quan, heavenly authority. So there's another name in one of the bowl stars that we can learn as we go along here. Polaris is the end star and the handle of the Little Dipper, and the handle of the Little Dipper is pretty faint. So we come back up here and we make a small dipper. A lot of times, what I see when I see, if it's hazy out in the summertime, like it's starting to get to be here some, and it's cloudy, but never mind that. If what I see for the Little Dipper is Polaris and these two stars in the end of the bowl of the Little Dipper, just like you have the bowl stars in the Big Dipper. And these you see are pretty bright stars, so pretty easy to see. Kochab and Ferkat up here. And I use them as pointer stars. If you go boom, 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 over from these two as pointer stars. Use these as pointer stars. Use these as pointer stars, and you'll come to a star that's about the same brightness, about in between these two stars, Eta Draconis. So Draco is this big winding constellation that sort of stretches. It's a group of faint stars that stretches back here between the two dippers, and then actually winds down this direction. It comes back. And there's a little sort of circlet for a head up here, kind of reminds me of the circlet in Pisces, a little grouping for the head of Draco. And what we see up here, Rastaban is one of these stars. What did I draw there? Rastaban is one of these stars. You see, that's why we don't draw while we're while we're live, while we're recording. Rastaban translates from Arabic as the dragon's head. And so this is the head of the dragon up in here. So you've got Draco back this direction. You got the Little Dipper as part of Ursa Minor, and you got the Big Dipper as part of Ursa Major. Right now is as good a time as any. You're going to have to go outside. Go out after it's dark, and you'll see the Big Dipper climbing up high over the pole if you're here at mid-northern latitudes, and you'll see it high in the sky. Use it to find Polaris and to find the bowl of the Little Dipper, and then use the bowl of the Little Dipper to find Eta Draconis. And you go bam, 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 and you found Eta Draconis, and then you do that same distance down this way, and then you'll get to Rastaban and El Tanin, which are actually a little bit brighter than Eta Draconis. So those are also relatively bright stars as these things go. They're not super bright stars, but that's part of our grouping of northern brighter stars. That's what we got this week. Think about the galaxy. Think about the rotation of the Earth. And if you have something on the rotational axis, how it doesn't appear to be moving in the sky. Polaris is just off that rotational axis, so it's making a little tiny circle. So think about the galaxy, think about the rotation of the Earth, and try to identify some new stars. If you don't know some of these stars, or you don't know them by name, go out and identify them. And if you got a telescope and you want a challenge, see if you can find M81, M82, and M101, big spiral galaxies. Fun to look at. Have a great week, everybody. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll have something new for you next week.